Now that the Corpus Railjack update has come out, we obviously need to do a ship update video. Now you may be thinking, okay, that would normally take some time, but it hasn't. Here we are in the dry dock with the Shield of Aiur and the Mag Prime. Now, here's the thing. It took me about a day to actually optimize my Railjack to a level that I believe is absolutely sufficient for a ship update video. But it's very different. Oh boy, it is very, very different. So let's have a look here at what we're talking about. The components of the Railjack are very, very different. We're using a Levan Shield Mark III. Now you may be thinking, what about a Zeki Shield Mark III? And at this point, the differences between the shields are not terribly noticeable, to be honest. So I'm just going to go for big numbers because why the hell not? We're also sticking to 1000% of energy being consumed becomes shields. So if I use a lot of Battle Avionics, I tend to get some overshields as well. So that is, of course, really, really strong. We're also using Levan Shield Engines Mark III. I don't know why I keep calling them Levan Shield Engines Mark III, but they are Levan Engines Mark III. And the reason why is because the Levan engines tend to be really, really powerful when it comes to boosting. And because the Railjack no longer has stamina, you can pretty much always boost. So that is going to be a really, really powerful option in terms of the engines moving forward. And here comes the big thing, the Levan Plating Mark III. So plating is a new thing that has been introduced into Railjack. And this Levan Plating Mark III, which might not even be maxed by the way, is already giving me a whopping 5,675 hull. That is a ton of hull, plus about 2,500 armor. So that is going to make my ship just automatically really, really tanky by itself. Now, I don't usually try to aim for a tanky Railjack, but in this case, there's no way of avoiding a tanky Railjack. Every single Railjack is going to be sporting hull levels around this area, so there's really no point trying to get away from it. You could, of course, just stick to Sigma plating, but yeah, sack that. We're also using a Levan Reactor Mark III. Now, this Levan Reactor Mark III is going to give me some extra battle mod duration, i.e. power duration, as well as some extra power strength. But the main thing, of course, is that also equipping this alongside Levan hull plating will also give me some extra shield. So that is a little bit of a set bonus. I hope to see a little bit more of this moving forward. But either way, right now, that 33% power strength is going to be helpful, but that 60% power duration is going to be very, very useful. Speaking of battle mods and just mods in general, let's have a look at the weapons that we're using. So, in terms of the weapons, I'm actually not going to sport any new weapons right now. I'm still trying to get some branded versions of Mark III weapons that are new to Railjack. I believe you can get them from Corpus Space as opposed to Grenier Space, so while I continue to explore more Corpus Space, we'll just stick to the ones that we have at the moment. The Zeki Castanox remains a very, very powerful option, although it doesn't actually armor strip anymore. So if you're not really into the Castanoxes in any way, shape, and form, you might want to use something like an APOC instead. Ditto with the Photors, but the Photors are generally easy to aim, so perhaps just sticking with these is probably a really, really good option. And of course, the Tiger Seeker is a very, very powerful ordnance, potentially the most powerful of the ordnances. It's just super useful at everything, especially when it comes to dealing with special cruise ships that have certain shield types. The Castanox and the Zeki Photor can, of course, get rid of those shield generators, but the Tiger Seeker tends to get rid of them in one shot anyway, so that is, of course, going to be a very useful option. One of the major changes that came with Railjack with this update is that the avionics grid doesn't exist anymore. We now have the Plexus. And the Plexus will, of course, massively change how the Shield of Aiur works. Because, of course, depending on who is the person in the pilot seat, that will, of course, change things a little bit more moving forward. In terms of the aura that I am using Ironclad Matrix because that gives me some extra hull and armor, as well as some extra shields and shield regeneration. The big thing, of course, is that with Ironclad Matrix, I have now hit over 10,000 hull. In other words, the Shield of Aiur is now an Umbral Inaros Prime of Railjack, with potentially more installed. So we'll just have to see. The shield recharge rate is sitting at 60.6% per second, which seems hilariously high. So basically my 4,500 shields can be recharged in under 2 seconds. So that is, of course, really, really strong. We're also using the holy trinity of Railjack. I will never leave home without it. Cruising speed, ion burn, and conic nozzle. Never leave the home without these three. Very, very important avionics to use. And you may find that my Plexus is actually very well structured because we also have 3 other avionics that are somewhat similar to each other. We have Warhead for extra missile damage, Quick Lock for extra missile lock-on time reduction, and Rip Load for extra reload speed on the ordnance. So that is of course really straightforward and really powerful, especially against those special cruise ships that have a shield on them. And of course we also have artillery cheap shot and forward artillery. Very powerful options. Forward artillery of course getting a slight buff when you max it out as well. That is of course very helpful. The one thing I will say about artillery cheap shot is I feel like this is even more mandatory than before, because when you start off a mission and you happen to be sitting in the forward artillery seat, you only ever have a maximum of 2 shots. Now you can actually get more, and we'll have a look at that later on in a different kind of video, but just keep in mind, I feel like artillery cheap shot is even more useful than before. When it comes to the Shield of Aiur, one of the most important things is of course the Battle Avionics. So here are the Battle Avionics that I tend to run around with for the time being, although I am always often regularly swapping them out with different ideas. Countermeasures remains very useful. Of course, some extra good piloting will also basically reduce the need for countermeasures, but I definitely like to use them from time to time, so I definitely recommend these. We also have Tether, which of course has been changed. We'll do an entire video on Tether soon. And of course Seeker Volley, which I've already done a video on, provided this actually comes out after that video. So check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. And of course the Tactical Avionics, and this is actually where a chief complaint about this Railjack update will actually come in, which is we have 3 categories of Tactical Avionics, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I feel like Tactical Avionics should just be their own thing, as a thing that you just swap and change whenever you want, at wherever you want. But for the time being, to try and navigate this idea that we have defensive Tactical Avionics, I am choosing Form Up, as opposed to Intruder Stasis. In terms of this idea that we have offensive Tactical Avionics, of which there's only 2 of them at the moment, I am choosing Death Blossom as opposed to Battle Stations. I just feel like Death Blossom is probably a little bit more useful. And in terms of Super Tactical Avionics, we're going to be sticking with Flow Burn, because of course that's going to give us some extra speed. Yes, Void Cloak is super duper useful. Yes, Battle Forge is super duper useful. Well, maybe Battle Forge is not that useful anymore. But either way, I'm going to stick with Flow Burn. Now, the Shield of Aiur comes with its own crew as well. If you have level 9 Commander Intrinsics, we have that sorted out for you. So here is the crew for the Shield of Aiur. We have Bethel, who is my second in command pilot, who sometimes runs around and also deals with enemies, but mainly I just use Bethel as a second in command pilot should I need to actually go outside of the Railjack to do some other things. We also have Kura Fano Evrak, who is going to be my engineer, mainly to just run around and repair things. That's basically what the engineer does. Hopefully Dee can add some forge capabilities for our engineers if that is the case, but until then, for the time being, she's really there to just fix the ship. And then we have Hilnia, who is actually going to be my on-call crewman, as well as my gunner as well. So when you find that enemy fighter ships are getting destroyed near my Railjack without me actually shooting at them, that is pretty much mostly because of Hilnia, and then sometimes because of Bethel as well, if I decide to stick Bethel on the gunners, because Bethel right now has a rank 3 gunnery stat, so that is of course really good as well. But generally speaking, Hilnia is just completely destroying everything near the ship, so that is really good. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. How are you making your Railjacks? Let me know in the comments. What kind of Battle Avionics are you choosing to use? What kind of Tactical Avionics are you choosing to use, especially because of this weird categorization? What kind of integrated avionics are you using? Let me know in the comments. Let it be known that I refuse to call them battle mods or integrated mods or Railjack mods. They're avionics. That's the deal. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoy. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Railjack action, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.